10 to 50 to cover the food service. We did increase the prices of lunches this summer for next fall. However, it's probably not going to be enough to make up that. Most school districts have to transfer money from 10 to 50 every year. That's like normal. 25,000 for a district our size would be reasonable, but we're way beyond that. So I don't think charging an extra quarter for lunch is going to make up the difference, but she's got to plan a little bit more there. Spec ed, that's not too bad, being a little 14,000, so she'll average a little bit more on that. Yeah, and hopefully with the 875 coming in for the referendum rather than $500,000, that should make up a gap. My concern is the state budget wasn't as friendly to school districts as I was hoping with the special education, because we were hoping for 60% from 33%, and they're going to go to 42% to 45 in year 2. So we got about halfway where I thought was reasonable, but it is what it is. So yeah, so we do use these numbers as we're planning to move forward, and yeah, that's what it is.
Questions for Kyle about that update?
I'm laughing, I'm like, I don't think a bake sale is gonna help. So
I was like trying to be like, is there a way we can like
extra aids for the food service, like that?
We get
some reimbursing the feds for some like
it's based on like
number of kids income. Our premium reduced lunch rate last year was 54.7% or something. So well over half of our 400 kids. Yeah. And you gotta remember when COVID was happening, there was free lunches for everybody for a stretch. And that sounds great when you're long-term planning and you keep getting the money coming in, and all of a sudden it's cut. Like, well, it's a wake-up call, So, yeah. I worry about federal funding and state funding for daycare centers because our Roots and Branches receives money monthly, and if that ever gets cut off at either level, it's about $10,000 a month we receive. If that disappears, we have 100 plus kids there. The charging of those 100 plus kids to make up that 10,000 a month. So I hope that the feds and the state keep coming through, and that your state did pretty well for us. It's the feds we got to count on too. So it's funny when cuts are made someplace else, how it hits you pretty quick. It's not funny. It's that's a wrong
maybe
word.
frustrating.
I use
scary. Yeah,
but I think
scary.
sometimes people don't always realize how those cuts impact us at that local level, and they're real.
Yeah. When you hear federal budget, you go, okay, well, only 2 steps and it's here. It's at our door.
Any other questions for Kyle from that update? All right. On to the Summer Learning Symposium and update for Chris.
Well, the good news is a lot of stuff that I've heard, we're already doing. So that was really very cool. I was very proud of our school, listening to advice from all these different presenters, and they were wonderful presenters. And a lot of what I kind of gravitated to was about communication with the community, so I kind of put on that stuff. I gave you a list of stuff, and read it or burn it. It's up to you. Some of the little green highlighted ones are the nuggets that I pulled out that I thought would be appropriate. Listening to the legislative update, basically the budget was explained. Kyle had already explained it perfectly, I thought, so it was really familiar ground. But what this fellow said was, involve your legislator, your local legislator in your school, and like communicate right to him, it happens to be, and invite them to come to the school. You want to form those relationships. And I think Rob Staffsold was on the Joint Finance Committee. Rob Staffsold.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and I don't know about Duke, but I think it's a great idea to reach out to those people and say, hi, here we are, we're still here.
Duke was in the listening session that was in Hayward that I went to,
Okay,
and he has emailed me since then. We've gone back and forth, so he's listening.
excellent. That's good. Good to hear. Student budgets, they said be open and transparent about your budget issues to communicate that to the public in terms they can understand without jargon or any kind of acronyms or anything like that, to make it more real. Use analogies that are the real that people can relate to. So that's kind of that. They endorsed a couple different things, WPEN, Wisconsin Public Education Network, as far as if we're moving forward to like another operation referendum or a building or any kind of thing like that. They, between the different presenters, they said Wisconsin Public Education Network and Wisconsin Schools Public Relations Association, I put both those in there, are really helpful partners and they come in and talk you through everything. The fact that we're doing a survey, I was talking to one presenter and she was happy that we're using school perceptions. So that's, most of the state uses it and it's very good. And so I felt good about that too, that we're on the ball with that, moving ahead. Letting students shine, I thought that was kind of fun. They were talking about, and maybe you do, I don't know, video announcements for the kids, like in the morning when you have announcements, having the kids do that. I know that you were kind of moving towards that in Grantsburg a few years ago. But I thought live game broadcast by students, I thought like on YouTube or Facebook, with some of those different links that sounded really fun. And it made me think again about our conversation about a spring fine arts festival or something to showcase student work that's more academic or more art side of it. So that was kind of a fun, they brought that up. Interestingly enough, when I went to the youth risk behavior seminar, they were talking about cell phones being boycotted in the school. So I put a link on there that she had shared with us. That page will just take you through the arguments and some of the research done for removing cell phones from the school or amending it, different ways of amending cell phone use. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, and you have it all there in front of you, so. Any questions from me?
Sounds like it was really useful.
I felt it was.
And how
Yes,
long was
just
it? Was
quite
it a 2 day?
It's like a, yeah, it's
Like
like 2 days.
Okay.
But I did.
Students' point, where was that?
Students'
point.
Mhm. Yeah. So.
Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah.
I know, I'm really helpful.
Yeah.
The one,
The bar has been set.
Now I can't attend anything.
I guess I'm out.
I'll never live up.
I thought it was interesting though that the from the state mental health part of the, not the DPI, but the government, the state, they were talking about communicating to parents, like educating them on how to monitor student behavior, and it was in all kinds of things. And they said the biggest problem with a lot of students was lack of sleep. And it's like, yep, we go back to the basics. You gotta have those needs met, or you can't get anywhere. So anyway, I am done now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but the document that Chris provided us in hard copy is in your extras. So when she was mentioning links, you should be able to access the document through your extras and click on links. There.
Did you do that too? This behavior survey?
We used to, we haven't recently, I think we didn't come back after COVID. I like it, I like the data you get out of it. It's optional, and we had a little bit of a wave of culture of families opting their kids out, and then pretty soon we only had 10 kids taking it. So I think it's a good,
Lose a lot of.
yeah, so I think it's probably good to try to wave that back.
And that goes back again to, how transparent we are and how we educate the public on what's the importance of it, what we can do with that data.
And I do think it was more students than adults, right? So it was kind of well, I'm not taking it, and I'm not gonna take it either, and then kids go home and say, hey, I don't wanna take this, can you sign this? And then parents may or may not even put a thought into it. And,
Just seems random.
right, you get kind of this mob mentality within the building, right? So I think it's wise to try to change that. It's been a few years now, so I think it's a good time to try to bring that back. But we certainly access the data each year. I access it for some compliance monitoring reports that we do for the DPI. I just accessed it for the Human Growth and Development meeting. There's some really good, there's some terrifying information that comes out of
A
it.
bunch of handouts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can, it's just Wisconsin information, so you can get national or just Wisconsin. So that is interesting in itself.
Any other questions for Chris?
What's the one about putting it in the grocery bags, table toppers?
When you go to communicate to, there are a lot of stakeholders in our district don't have children in the school. So it was just ways of how to communicate to, the property tax payers or other stakeholders, they call them, people who are influential, vote. And what was fun was she was talking about, I think it was Mauston that had to really push hard. If they failed, they were going to lose their school district kind of thing. And she was saying how they made those table toppers. You see them in restaurants where they list the, stuff on tap, whatever, or wine. But they put their little spiel on that and put it in the bars and in the restaurants and, the cafes and stuff. So at the table, people are sitting there waiting for their meal. And, I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good idea.
It's
So
but it is a good way to
It
reach.
is creative.
No, it is.
Yeah,
A group of
that
people
is-
that.
And a group that you don't usually reach,
Yes.
which is their.
Right.
Yeah,
And
like
that's
we
what they
can't
talked
just
about,
send
if you're
them
doing a strategic plan to how to bring in those other stakeholders that aren't necessarily going to volunteer. And reaching out to different parts of the community.
Right. Well, it's easy to communicate with people who are looking to be communicated to.
Right.
We
We
gotta
know
reach
how
the
hard
ones
that
aren't.
is in all venues.
Gosh, you're sitting in the meeting too, so you.
Yeah.
You're more likely to pick that up and look at it.
Especially if it's like bullet points.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gotta be
Very
It has to be a visual.
But not a novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right, just a couple.
Yeah. So you can't have me write it.
You're right.
I just heard you say.
Pretty much.
So, excellent. One less thing for me.
We hear you will edit it.
That'll do. That'll do. All right. All right. Now we're on to the really fun part, which is the adoption of the NEMOLA policies. So hopefully, obviously the policy committee has been combing through these things now for months, and we thank them again for all of that work. I thought the 5,000 section was going to be the death of me. But then I was able to power through. So I don't know the best way to tackle this. I was telling Kyle, of course, when I read something, find typos and mistakes and those kinds of things. We don't need to use meeting time to go through where there's a missing parenthetical or something like that. I can certainly talk with Jess about the things that I found before we publish, so that those things get fixed. So I don't really think this spend any time here on that. So I just thought, I made notes on a couple of policies where I maybe had some questions, or
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. There was only one I wanted to comment on.
You go first then.
Okay, lunch account, 8,500. We have some folks that are delinquent their payment of their lunch accounts. And like I said, we're transferring thousands of dollars into Fund 50 from Fund 10. So when the policy committee looked at it last week, they had, had some options. And and this is some information, I sat down with Amy Herman this week and with Libby, and currently we have $11,349.75 outstanding debt. People haven't paid their lunch accounts. Some of it's real minor. We have 17 families or 32 students who owe $358.85. They haven't hit any sort of threshold. However, we have a subgroup of 11 families who attribute to $10,990.90 of this outstanding debt. And you have to remember, with our population, we have about 400 students, and 54.7% are already on free and reduced lunch. So the economically disadvantaged are already receiving free lunch, and then it's the next. So these aren't that
They're not free
they're not free or reduced. These are people that the government says can pay for feeding their children. And I'd like to work with Amy contacting the families, because in the policy 8500 it says if you get to $100 or more greater, you'll end up getting an alternate meal until you get paid up. And with the folks that are really high like this, over $100, if this policy passes, Amy's going to contact each one of them and see if we can get them in to fill out the paperwork to see if they do qualify for free and reduced. If they do, then we'll wipe out their current debt level, get them up to speed. If not, they got to start paying because the government says that they're capable of doing so. We do know 3 of the 19 kids already do qualify for free and reduced, so those will administratively just wipe those accounts off of those for those 3. But Amy will contact those, and then in our return to school notifications, the principals will also let the families know, hey, this is the system, because I think it's Tuesday night, is it? You guys get the notifications with the email that, hey, your your account's low and you owe money.
Monday.
Oh, it might be Monday. Okay, whatever day of the week it is, there's a set
Because
time.
my phone rings.
I might be on I do not confirm or deny anybody got this, but yes.
Because if it goes in the hole like 30 cents, you get a call.
No, it goes in the whole 1 penny you get a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amy told me that.
Okay, well, mine might be at like $1.37.
So you're in the campus, and you get $25, you start getting, that's right. It's like we get the whole
Right.
25, and it's like-
And then we would set that system up too, that you get notified if you're getting close to a $100 threshold, and I told Amy like it's 75, then maybe we get a personal call from her saying, hey, just so you know your account's approaching that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that obviously we can't continue to just allow people to accrue outstanding debt with no cutoff or change or some response from the school in addressing that. And we want to try and help families as much as we can. There are many families who, that paperwork packet is daunting. It just is. It's a lot of paperwork. It looks daunting. And some people sort of assume that either filling it out isn't going to be worth their time, or filling it out is going to be harder than they want it to be. So the more that, as Kyle and I were talking about this, the more that we can offer resources to families with assistance for completing those things, helping them, access that, maybe rather than just, oh, we gave you the packet, you didn't fill that out. Like my hope is that we can reach out very personally to the families that are affected.
And that was kind of one of the things we talked about too, because I said sometimes parents, like, see you have a parent who works in, hospitality and tourism, so they're making a lot of money right now. So when they fill it out in August, their finances look good, so they don't qualify for September, but all of a sudden now the restaurant or wherever they're working at, they're not working, and so it's like, okay, but now you can fill it out in October, like, and please do, because now and that would be part of that too, like watching it, so then Amy could say, like, has your income changed since, you first tried, or since this summer when you didn't feel like you should qualify?
Yeah, and Amy, when she contacts them, she's going to welcome them to come into school and sit down in her office in private and say, can we help you to get this? Because it is like,
Yes.
it's a challenge to follow paperwork, but
And then it's-
absolutely.
We're not, no shame, it's just purely like, we really want to help you too, because, if they do qualify for free and reduced, please take advantage of it. That's what
That's
that
what it's
program's
there
there
for,
for.
and like you said, people think, oh, I filled out the form in the fall, I didn't qualify. and things switch by November and they don't realize that, no, it's any time you have a change of life that might change if you can get it, so. That was the one I wanted to make sure we talked about, that's kind of a change of operations around here.
Any questions about that one? Okay, so I guess I had a question about, let me try to get to the right.
Are you in extras or are you?
I'm not, I'm
Yeah,
in
okay.
actual, I'm in,
Okay.
board docs where the policy
Yeah, okay.
drafts are. So let's see, I guess when I was looking through in the 1000 series in the administrative templates, policy 7530.02. Nope, policy 164, sorry. Okay, my notes are not right.
You know what the title was?
Yeah. I must have not that number. Apologies. Oh, no, in the zeros, sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
That's why, in the bylaws, yeah. 0164, which is about meetings. The question that I had was, because there's some language in there about virtual attendance in meetings. And a question that I had was whether or not and so the way this is written, I couldn't tell completely if this was intended to be any kind of change to previous policy or just, I guess, what our thoughts are on virtual participation. So the virtual participation in meetings section says that it says, generally the board does not allow virtual participation unless otherwise determined by the board or due to an order by an authorized authority preventing in-person attendance at a meeting. That board members are expected to attend meetings in person at the location set by the board for the meeting. I wasn't clear, I was looking for a separate policy that might address virtual attendance, because I think our current policy, and I know that's in place right now, has a provision for virtual attendance. We've had board members attend virtually in the past. But we had also talked about, that's, I think, one of those policies that it's good to review from time to time to see how that's working. It sometimes does pose challenges. So I just didn't know what if this was at all something you guys spent time on in your discussions as a committee. The way this was written, I couldn't tell if virtual participation was allowed. So I wanted to ask for just some clarification on that language, what you guys think.
Yeah, it is allowed, but we want you in person. It'd be more like, I can't make it next month, and then the group would say, okay, should we have them in or not? This is how I took it.
That's kind of how I interpreted it. And then am I correct in saying that if it's a closed session, virtual attendance is not allowed in a closed session
Correct.
meeting?
That's how we would do it, right?
But a meeting like this, if I'm out of town or something like that, I could have said at the last meeting, hey, I'll be out, but.
And the second part, I think, would be like if a doctor puts you in quarantine or something.
Right, yes, that part made
Right.
some sense.
So yeah, if you're traveling for work and you can't be here, let the board know ahead of time, say, well, okay, next month, yes, you can, but we don't want them to happen. We want you.
Well, so that was the second part of my question is, would we want to set any limits around that? Because it's not, it says if you are allowed to participate virtually, what's the line where we would say, okay, now this has become problematic or more habitual than we intended by the way we wanted the board to run. So I just wondered if that was something we wanted to think about. And it's also possible that we can adopt the policy as is and continue to consider that, because it's not like once we adopt the policies tonight, we have to say no changes in the future can ever be made. So we don't have to consider and decide on a change tonight. It was something that I was thinking about as I was reading, and the language was a little odd to me. it did make clear that board members have the ability to vote virtually, so I was like, okay, so virtual participation is okay, because it talked about voting, and that's a couple policies later, it speaks about if you do attend virtually, you do get to participate in a vote on anything that's occurring. So it's certainly something we can kind of come back to as a,
And we did
something
not
we
come
should
up
think
with
about.
a, what's too much, or what frequency or percentage.
Yeah.
But I do agree, I think it'd be something to take into consideration, like that if it became a habit, you know, that is it due to a special circumstance once or twice during the year? Or is it every month all of a sudden now it's a virtual meeting, so.
Okay, so once again, back to this, with the Neola, like this wording is just, but could this be in a handbook? Or with the board members, it's different,
The board doesn't have a
Board
handbook.
doesn't have a handbook, board has policy.
okay, so it's not, I'm just clarifying,
Yeah,
you know.
no, it's.
So
that's-
these are
it's a
our
policy,
rules,
yeah.
these are the rules we have to follow to function.
Okay.
And the language is,
I'm just-
Neola's, we didn't. Sometimes you can cross things off, and Neola gives you options, you pick or whatever, but the actual language is their language, their words.
So if we wanted to change something, we probably wanna talk to Ed.
Right, we
Yeah.
talked to our rep.
And
he
like
said
say,
that-
hey, we're looking at this, you know, how would you say we should look at it and still keep it within, parameters of the policy?
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And maybe Ed would come back and say, we're not allowed to set limits, and then that would be good
then we
legal
would know
guidance
that
to
too.
understand,
Yeah.
you know, so that it is good. That's why we have, we can follow up with them and see what they allow. Okay. Let's see. In the 2000s, policy 2221. Curriculum, it's a curriculum development policy.
So 2221 is special observance days,
Or,
2230
yeah.
is curriculum course.
Special observance.
Special observance days? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, so I guess the only question I wondered about is, because the language is that the board directs that the following days are appropriately observed in all schools. But I worried that that could become confused with it being a school holiday, because appropriately observed doesn't mean no school, but there's no qualifying language for what, because they're not all school holidays. They're things that might be observed in a different way, not with a day off school. So I didn't know if there was a reason to clarify that language, because if somebody looked at that policy and didn't know what the boundaries of appropriately observed meant, they might think, oh, that's a great list of days off.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if they consulted the school calendar, they would see that it's not, but
Yeah.
I thought that was ambiguous. But again, that's.
I thought it was a good list for us as a school, because
It is.
there's days on there that we're supposed to remember that, like, is there Casimir Pulaski
Yeah.
Day?
Yes.
Okay, I go to that one.
Yeah.
That in the state of Illinois is a day off.
Uh-huh.
It's the first Monday in March.
Yep.
But it's not a day off in Wisconsin, but most of us don't know who Pulaski was, right? So that's a good reminder for us to say, okay, we gotta make sure we hit that someplace in our curriculum or somewhere. The kids have gotta be aware of that during their experience throughout their years here. Doesn't mean everyone has to celebrate everyone every day, but
Right.
somehow that has to be hit so the kids know about it.
And
Right.
we discussed, like, maybe even having an announcement in the, like, in the morning announcements or something like that.
Yes,
That
we're
would-
on the display board at the elementary, where they have the announcements rolling all day, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was a great list as well. I was
Right.
actually really happy to see it. I thought, oh,
I became
that,
educated by looking at some of these.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So I don't know if that's something we can run past Ed to see if, is there a way to clarify that what appropriately observed means, just so someone can't become confused and think those are days off school. Because it's quite a lot, and it would be a windfall for somebody who thought it was
Yeah.
days off school.
Yeah.
We would be very excited about that and very disappointed